record on this. Yeah, now we're recording. Hello and welcome to the Olive IELTS exam preparation intensive course. So in 6 hours, we are going to learn everything we need to know about taking and succeeding in the IELTS. I'll give you lots of resources for improving your level of vocabulary and grammar. But in this class, I'm going to be showing you what to do with that level of grammar and vocabulary to get the highest possible marks you can on the IELTS. All right, so with that said, I'm going to share my screen and start the... So here we are, welcome. This is our schedule for the class. Today, we're going to start from now until 11 o'clock. We'll be doing the exam overview. I want you to know all of the parts of the exam, what's included, and also how the exam is marked. All right, that's a key, is how do you get the scores? After that, we will go diving directly into how do we approach the reading exam in order to get those top marks. And it's a technique, and I look forward to showing it to you. Next week, we will be looking in the same way again on the listening exam, and we will start the first half of the writing exam. It'll be task 1. In fact, I'm going to correct that now. So then on the final week, we will do the second half of the writing exam and look at how to get the best marks in the speaking exam. I look forward to doing all of this with you. This page is our resources. These are the general resources. Hopefully you'll get this PDF as an email as well. All of these are resources that I will be referring to while we're talking about the exam itself. There are specific things that will help you with reading, with listening, with writing, with speaking, grammar and vocabulary, and be careful. This is my very first, my first word of caution on this. IELTS on YouTube. There are a lot of people with YouTube channels about the IELTS exam. You will find tons of them. Please, please ignore them. Okay? Please ignore them. I have watched them, so you don't have to. So there are, in fact, I even had a student just last week. She was a new student for me, completely in floods of tears. She had just taken the IELTS and she did not get the marks she needed. It was dreadful. And she told me that she had been watching lots of YouTube videos on the IELTS. And this is the caution. Don't do it, please. There's a lot of people saying really, really wrong things. And I have spent a whole weekend where I did nothing but watch different presenters on the IELTS to see who I could recommend, who was getting it right. And it was terrifying. There is some very bad information out there. So please be careful. What I have here are 2 links that I know are good. One is the British Council's own IELTS website, YouTube channel. Use it. It's right. Okay. So it's the good one. And the other one is a woman by the name of Aisha. She is from Kazakhstan, I think. And she is fantastic. She lives in London and she teaches. Her channel is called Fast Track IELTS. After a long week, hours and hours of watching other people just say things that I shouted at the screen a lot. Her channel first rate. If you want to watch, YouTube for IELTS, the British Council or Fast Track IELTS, they get it right. I have yet to disagree with her on anything, and I'm taught by the British Council. We do it right. You know, my students get the marks they need. Trust me, use Aisha's Fast Track IELTS or the British Council if you're on YouTube. Please don't look at the others. They have terrible advice. All right. And I would hate for you to watch something that told you something that made you lose marks on your exam, because I want you to succeed. All right. So with that said, so make sure that you use the links on this page to find extra resources online. The format of the exam. Has anyone here taken the exam before? Can you wave at me or say something if you have? No? Okay. So the format of the test, there's two: academic and general training. Be careful, because the general training is quite different. So make sure that any of the resources that you use are specifically for the academic exam. All of the ones on my list are, but like on the British Council site, there are videos for the general training exam as well. That is usually for visa applications and that sort of thing. All right. So for the academic, there's a 30-minute listening exam, 60 minutes of reading, 60 minutes of writing, and I like to round up to about 15 minutes of speaking by the time you're done. Okay, but it's 11 to 14 specifically. All right. Hello, Matilda. Let's see. So there's 4 parts to the exam, and these are the bandwidths. Now, if you are trying to get into an undergraduate program, a 5.5 to a 6 is usually okay. And this shows you, these are the band scores. It's 1 to 9. Nobody's a 1. All right. So it's usually 6 to 7 for postgraduate or Russell Group universities. So I have a student who just got into Queen Mary for law with a strong 6.5, I believe. Yeah, it was a 6.5 she needed, and she needed 7s in some of the in some of the sections of the exam. So, and she got a 9 on listening, so it's possible, I can tell you. And that's after just 1 year of being here, and from the Ukraine. And as you see, this is the standards that you'll see on other language learning sites. Usually use the Common European Framework Reference, the CFER, and going from A1 to C2. So as you see, for most of the university that you need, a B2 is really all you need. Okay, so this is the range that you'll want for this exam. So B2 to C1, depending on the university you're going to. Right. So the calculation. So there's 4 parts of the exam. The individual IELTS scores for each part, listening, reading, writing, and speaking. All of them are equal on the exam. The scores are added together and divided by 4 and rounded up to or down, depending. So, oh no, half band. There we go. Yeah. So 0.25 is rounded up to the next half band. and 0.75 is rounded up to the next whole band. So it's never rounded down. It's only rounded up. All right. So that's how you get that number at the end, is from adding up your scores on each of the individual exams and then making the average of that and rounding up to the nearest. Okay. So there we go. This is a test of communication. You've probably taken a lot of exams over your educational career. You've had tests in maths in school. You've had tests on spelling. You've had tests on all sorts of things that you could memorize, right? This is not one of those tests. This is completely different from any test that you have ever taken before. There is nothing you can memorize to get through this exam. In fact, there are parts of this exam where if they see that you have memorized something, you actually get fewer marks, a lower mark, fewer points. So if you are memorizing phrases, if you memorize whole sentences for the writing exam, they will see that, they won't count those words. It's really about communicating. So the question is, so the test of receptive skills is, can you listen and understand what's being said? Can you read and understand what's been written? Okay. And in the expressive skills, can you tell a story? Can you express yourself and be understood? The marking, the grading on the writing and the speaking, all of them allow for errors in vocabulary and in grammar. With the caveat, with the extra bit that if it doesn't, if you make a mistake, but they can still understand exactly what you're trying to say, then it actually doesn't count against you. So even, believe it or not, even at an 8 or a 9 band level, you're still permitted to make errors. Okay. It's about communication, not perfection, not memorizing. All right. So how do we get through this? The key to it is the questions. The one thing that you are reading for, the most important thing in this exam, because it's not what you've memorized, you need to understand the questions. So that's the biggest job on the whole exam. If you can do anything, find all the practice exams you can and read and make sure that you understand as many of those questions as you possibly can. Because if you understand what's being asked, you'll find the answer. All right. You will, I promise you, if you understand what's being asked, you will find the answer. The answers are often even found in the questions. And this is what the second half of the class is going to be about in the reading exam. I'm starting with the reading exam because it is the best example of reading the questions tells you the answer. Okay. So in listening, how do you know what to listen for? Read the questions. Okay. If you know what you're looking for, then you can, if you know what you're listening for, then you can hear it. If you're not sure about what you're listening for, if you're not sure about that question, if you're not quite certain about what it means, how can you listen for the answer? It doesn't work that way, does it? So the most important thing in all of these is understanding the questions. A lot of people like to focus on the listening part, how you listen and what you do, or how you read. Are you skimming? Are you scanning? None of that works until you understand the question, because then you know what you're looking for, what you're listening for. Okay. In the writing, understanding the question is 1/4 of the mark. Okay. The writing and speaking are have 4 categories that they are marked by, and 1/4 of it is understanding. Okay, so that's my roundabout questions. What are you going to be reading on the exam? The questions. They're really the key. So here we go. The reading test. We're going to be starting with this today. There are 60 minutes. You have 1 hour to read 3 documents and answer 40 questions. That is impossible. You cannot read the 3 documents and answer 40 questions in an hour. Not even I can. Okay. The difference is read the questions. If you read the questions, then when you look at the document, the information that you need, the answer will practically leap off the page into your brain, I promise. Okay. So there will be 3 documents, a total of, somewhere just below 3,000 words. So unless you read really fast in English, this is one of those things where a lot of the YouTube and other teachers will suggest that you sometimes will suggest that you skim or scan or briefly read the articles, the documents, before you look at the questions. Don't do it. There is no point in looking at the documents. It would be that if you read the documents before you've read the questions, you might as well go into a newsagent's and pick up a magazine whilst blindfolded and then open it and read it cover to cover. We don't do that. We read for a reason. We pick up the magazine because we like the picture on it. We open it to that article to see if it's what we want to read. We only read with a reason. And the questions are your reason on this exam. They give you the reason to read. So the articles are written for non-specialist audiences and are on academic topics of general interest. The topics can range from science, environment, social history, business, pretty much anything, but all on a general level. So the kind of thing you would find in an ordinary magazine or newspaper. All right. And they may have some diagrams. So there we go. You know to read the questions. So the reading test is a test of mostly reading the questions. Once you understand those questions, you're good. So you may need to read for gist. That's a general understanding of what the article is about. You may need to read for the main ideas. What are they trying to convey? What are the primary ideas that they're trying to tell you about? There will be questions that look for detail reading. Those are great because you can skim very quickly to find them. It gets, as the band levels go up, the questions get harder. Then you need to understand inferences and implied meaning. You'll be needing a lot of synonyms for this. Recognizing any opinion, if it's got an opinion expressed in it. And following the development of an argument. If someone is making a case for something, you need to be able to follow and understand what they're doing. All right. Okay, and next, the listening test. 30 minutes of that 10 minutes transfer time. So in this test, in the reading test, it's multiple choice, things like that. And it's all, you're given an answer sheet to fill in. With the listening test, you're given a question sheet and an answer sheet. And you have to read the questions, listen, and just put your answers down as quickly as you can on the question sheet. And then at the end, you transfer that to your answer sheet. Obviously, if you're taking the computer-based, this happens all at once. You don't have a transfer time because you're actually typing into the question sheet itself. Not a problem. So, but if you're on paper, if you're taking the paper exam, you have 10 minutes to make sure that all your answers are correct and written out exactly as you need them. The 4 sections are, once again, like the reading test, there are 40 questions. There are 4 sections, and they get progressively more complicated. Section 1 is a conversation between 2 people, usually someone phoning up for information about booking something, or an interview between 2 people about a library or a public park or something of the sort. The second will be a monologue, which will be someone telling you all about a holiday camp or a public service. All right. The third is a conversation between usually 2, sometimes up to 4 people about in an educational or training context. So it will be a couple of people talking about their class or a project for one of their classes at university, or something along those lines. And then the final one is basically an academic lecture. So it'll be a monologue on an academic subject. And here's where you're going to be listening for development of ideas and the subtler and more difficult questions like that. What are the meanings behind the things that are said? So let's see. So understanding main ideas and specific factual information, those are all going to be in the first 2 sections. Recognizing opinions and attitudes and purpose will be in the second 2 sections. The questions, once again, are your only way of knowing what you're listening for. All right. So here we are. The writing test. 60 minutes, 2 tasks. Right? So once again, you've got an hour to do this. There is a short task, task 1, which is 150 words. And task 2 is 250 words. And it is an opinion essay. So task 1 is a test of remember this is about communication. So task 1 is a test of, can you accurately describe what you see? You'll be given a map, table, a graph, a chart, a diagram of some sort. You need to be able to say what it is and how the parts of it are related to each other. At this point, nothing outside of what you see, just what's on the page in front of you. Doesn't matter if it's a diagram of a process of an industrial process that you invented. You can only describe what is on the paper in front of you. All right, so it will be a diagram, a table, a graph, a chart, and we'll go over several types of these to see how to handle them. It's very quick. And the key to it is making a plan so that you can get in everything that you need. Task 2 is an opinion essay. Sometimes they are a general topic essay. That is so rare. virtually all of the task 2 ones are asking you to take a position, to have an opinion, and to support it with relevant details. And I'll show you how to approach that so that you get absolutely full marks for your level of vocabulary and grammar. So they're written in a formal style, and we will be looking and talking about resources to improve your use of the passive voice, because we use the passive voice primarily in academic writing. Okay, so there we go. Right. The essays are marked on 4 criteria. First is content, known as task achievement, or task achievement. This is the key. This is where, remember I said, every single part of the test, it's about understanding the questions. So, content. Did you understand the task and write about all of the relevant parts? Not just some of them, all of them. Okay. If you can write about all of the relevant parts, you win. Okay. That will give you, so each of these 4 categories, you will get, again, a band 1 to 9 on each of these 4 parts. And yes, that will be averaged, so that those 4 marks will become your task, your writing test mark. So 1, did you understand the test and the task and write about all of the parts? 2, did you organization of ideas? Is there a logical progression in your writing? Now, there's only one way to get that, and that's to make a plan. So I'll be focusing in the writing, when I'm working on the writing test with you, I'm going to be focusing on you understanding how to make a plan so that you get top marks on your organization of ideas. All right. So think about it. Understanding the question, making sure that you've got all the content, and organizing your ideas. That's half your mark in the writing test. All right. The vocabulary and grammar are the same weight, but they're only that part of it. Is there anything here that says number of words outside of the minimum on that first part? Are the number of words you put on the paper the most important part? No. So getting your pen down fast and writing as fast as you can and as many words as you can will not get you top marks. Because if you do that, you haven't checked the content or organized your ideas. And if you haven't checked the content and organized your ideas, you are missing half the marks. Okay, so that's the challenge. We'll be working on that more than anything, but I will also give you lots of places to improve your vocabulary and grammar so you can build those marks up as well. All right. Right, the speaking test. Again, it's 11 to 14 minutes. It's a face-to-face interview with the examiner, and it's always recorded. Now, why is it recorded? Well, in the productive tasks of writing and speaking, you get 2 examiners. All right. There will be, first examiner will look at your writing and will give a mark, and then it is passed blind to a second examiner, and making sure that those marks are accurate and correct. So you've got 2 people marking all of your work. Same with the speaking. It will be recorded, but only for the purpose of the second examiner confirming the marks that you got, that the first examiner gave you. Now, the examiner in the interview has a very interesting job. The first part is an introduction and an interview. So you're talking about where you live. You'll be asked about where you live, maybe some of the hobbies that you have, things that you do in general, parts of your life. One of the things that I always tell my students is if they ask you about something that is very difficult or triggering, you can find another way around it. You can ask them not directly to change the question, but I had one young woman, I was preparing for the exam, and I wanted to make sure that if they asked about family, because where she came from a difficult background where that was not going to be easy for her to talk about. But she has a great community within the world of karate, and has traveled the world working with doing karate competitions, and she has lovely people supporting her from that environment. So what I told her is that when she went in, if they asked about family, she was really able to say, I can't really talk about my family. They're a bit difficult to talk about. Let me tell you about my karate family. So that kind of deflection will work. Okay. I can't really tell you much about the place that I'm living right now, but I can tell you about the best place I ever lived. That will be fine, because it's not the information in particular that they're looking for. It's the grammar and vocabulary and your fluency, how easily you speak. All right. So feel free to bend the subject on some questions if you have to. All right. It's okay. All right. They don't want you to be upset. They just want you to be able to speak freely and tell them and answer things, as long as you understand the question. That's the important part. So the second part, you're given a card and you have a minute to prepare. And this is going to be another instance of planning in much the same way that you plan for the writing. You want to write down a couple of details, things that you might forget to talk about in the course of talking about a subject for 2 minutes. But what I most want you to think about with part 2, 2 minutes, it's now 2 minutes, not 3 minutes. So in the 2 minutes that you're speaking, tell me a story. Okay, take that topic and just tell me a story. So there we go. That's the second part. And then after that, there's a two-way discussion. You will be asked some questions still on that part 2 topic. And these questions are really important to listen to, because this is where the examiner is asking you to expand the grammar that you're using. Do some speculation. Well, if this happened, then something else would have occurred. Using wider languages. Well, I think it's important for individuals, but I don't think the government should make policies about it. That kind of taking things from the personal to the public realm and expanding the vocabulary and grammar that you use. And here's a magic thing. It has never happened on any exam you've ever taken before. The examiner is your advocate. What? No, seriously, their job description is to, in this exam, see how high they can get you to go on the scale of fluency, coherence, grammar, and vocabulary. So all of their questions are there to lift you to the next band level. That's their job. So if you listen carefully to the questions, you'll hear the grammar structures that they're asking for. All right, and I'll go more into that and show you, because it's not, you don't even have to believe me, because 2 weeks from now, I'll show you some clips and you'll see for yourself that this is true. So, and that's actually true of the writing as well. It's their job is to see how high you have achieved, not crossing things off. All right. So in the speaking test, errors, unless they impede communication, unless they keep the person from understanding what you're trying to say, errors are allowed. It's not as hard in some ways as it wants to be. And right. So yes, the speaking test, again, like the writing, there's 4 criteria. This one's slightly different: fluency, and that is, can you speak without a lot of stopping? If you have to pause for a really long time between every single question, okay, your fluency level is going to be lower. But if you can keep talking, then you know, and pausing occasionally to gather your thoughts is fine. Pausing for long pauses to search for words, better to go with whatever words pop into your head and talk around the word that you're missing in case, to keep the fluency up. Again, your vocabulary range is important. The breadth, how many topics have you been exposed to in English? That kind of wide vocabulary is what we need for the IELTS exam. And I'll show you my favorite site called News and Levels, which is one of my favorite places for expanding vocabulary, because you can read about things in any possible topic, and there's also videos and audios to go along with it. So I think you'll love that. So grammatical range and accuracy. Once again, I'm going to give you places to work on your grammar. And pronunciation. Now, a lot of people think that that means you have to sound British. It doesn't. It just means, are you clear? So once again, because this is a test, and I keep saying this, because this is a test of communication, so long as you can be understood, you're fine. All right. Some errors that do not impede communication do not count against you. All right. So long as everything else, if everything else is at a 7 and your pronunciation is, well, slightly accented, but everyone can still understand you, it doesn't drop your score. It won't. Okay. So there's a lot of flexibility in this test. It is very, in a lot of ways, it's very personal rather than analytic, as most tests would be. And I hope that you will succeed. And let's go through the parts and make sure that you do. Right. Yeah, this took less time. So here's some of the essential skills. These are the most essential skills. And I have seen the medical scans that prove these. Okay, when we're afraid, we are descended from people who responded to threats, to wolves in the wilderness. This is always my example. So our ancestors ran away from the wolves. The ones who didn't run away from the wolves didn't have children. So we're descended from people who reacted really effectively when scared of something that's a threat, like a wolf. And this is a very old part of our brain. We're really good at it. It's part of the thing that makes you able to leap to the sidewalk or get really quickly to the pavement when you suddenly see a car barreling down the road towards you. You leap to the pavement. And the way that works, the reason we're able to respond so quickly is because when there's a threat, when we're scared, part of our brain that is deep and old kicks in and it shuts off the higher functions of the brain. I don't need to be thinking about the place of wolves in the world and the intricacies of wolf social structures. Don't need to be thinking about those things if I'm being chased by wolves. I need to run. So I'm descended from people who, and you are, we're all descended from people whose brains shut off those higher functions, sent all the blood out to the action parts of our brains and our bodies. So that's what happens when we have anxiety. That's why if we see a car barreling down the road towards us, we leap to the pavement without even thinking, because we've got parts of our brains that keep us safe. All right, and they're old. Now, the only problem is they are very old, and there were no exams when this part of our brains developed. So unfortunately, if we open an exam paper and look at it and feel anxiety, what do you think our brain does? Yeah, same thing as the car coming down the road. Same thing as that pack of wolves 100,000 years ago. Same thing. It's that old part of our brain, and it stops us from thinking. Why do I know this? I have seen the fMRI images that prove it. So we have this terrible mechanical switch. If we read something, if we look at something, or we're in a situation that causes us anxiety, there he goes. All of the higher functions, everything that we need to succeed on an exam, gone. But just as much as that is a physiological response, there is a physiological switch to turn it back on. Okay? So we can turn our brain back on very simply. A long, slow, deep breath. Okay? Long, slow, deep breath. So think about it. What can't you do when you're running away from a pack of wolves? You can't go. What's the first thing you do? That car was coming at you. You leapt to the pavement. The car's gone past. You're safe. Didn't get squashed. Everything's fine. Oh, thank heavens, I made it. That big, deep breath is our way of signaling to our brain that everything's okay. And just as it works when you're walking down the street and you avoid that car, yes, that was a close one. All right. Yeah, now I can. It's a switch. So trust me, breathe. Read the question, breathe. Read the question again. Now you can find the answer. Okay. So just remember that's an old part of our brain. Any anxiety you feel, I'm not saying don't be, oh, This used to drive me crazy. Oh, don't be nervous. Don't be worried. Don't be anxious. Has that ever worked? If someone says, if you're upset or anxious or worried about something, has it ever worked for someone to just say, oh, worry about that? All that does is make me worry more. So the anxiety, we're not going to concern ourselves with the anxiety. We can, yeah, of course, we're going to feel the anxiety. The only thing I'm worried about is the anxiety can be the anxiety, but we can turn our brains back on. And then the exam is easy. All right. But you got to have your brain working. So throughout this class, I will be reminding you, and what I really want you to do from now on, every time you look at a new subject, every time you read something in English, every time you do an IELTS practice, the first thing I want you to do, which is one of those. If you do that every time, then when you get to the exam, you will do it automatically. You won't have to think, oh, right, Jan said I've got to take a deep breath. No, 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 no. You don't have to worry about that. It will be automatic because we're going to do it every time we study anything. And that will take care of our exam anxiety. At this point, I'm going to ask if you've got any questions. Stop sharing that. Does anyone have any questions? I know this was a lot of information all at once.
Yeah, hello, Jonas here.
Yes.
Thank you for the brief and detailed information about the exam. What I really want to ask is there a best technique or a best strategy on time management on doing the exam, especially when it's on computer based because you are given all the questions at the same time. So either a best technique or strategy on that.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Well, the best technique and for time management is to learn and use the skills I'm going to teach you. All right. I won't be talking about time management very much, but the skills that I'm giving you, because to me, time management is another thing to think about. And I don't want you thinking about that. When you're taking the exam, I want you to be focused on those questions and focused on those answers. I want the time management is built into the skills. If you use the techniques that I'm going to teach you, then the time will take care of itself. You will have all the time you need. All right. You won't need to watch the clock because you will be working so efficiently that it all works. Okay. Right. Oh, right. And this class goes until 11 o'clock. And then from 11 to 12, we'll be doing the reading exam. So that's the answer to the question in the chat. Thank you for that. So for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you some of the resources on that resource page. So let me pull up my, yeah, there we go. And I'll go back to sharing. Right. Right. So there are on that here, actually, let me go to this page. There we go. So on this page, whoops, there we are, the resources page. Reading, I've got news and levels is very important. And I've also given you the Learn English British Council Story Zone. So these are great places to read things. Let me show them to you. there we go. So, the way I've got this, I can't see my, there we go. Just shift that a bit. So, yeah, there we go. So news and levels, this is my favorite for getting breadth of English. This is the easiest place to go to read about a subject that you've never read about before. So maybe you have read a lot of sports and maybe business, but you've never read about an environmental subject or a social subject. All right. So that's the wonderful thing about this site. So here we go. We've got right up here, we've got an environmental one, turtles and plastic. And the wonderful thing about this site is the stories are all in 3 levels. Level 1 is the present tense with lots of short sentences. All right. Level 2 is compound sentences, so slightly longer and uses the past tense as well. And then level 3 has all levels of grammar. So it has this a normal newspaper level of grammar. All right. So you can read the story in 3 different levels, find the one that's most comfortable, and then stretch yourself. But start at the beginning. And part of what you'll find is you'll see how to develop grammar as well. So while you're reading the story, you're getting some background, back of your mind, subconscious grammar exercise knowledge as well. So if you start at level 1 with the very simple sentences, see, on Kenya's beaches, there's a lot of plastic waste. This is a big problem for turtles. They eat plastic. Plastic kills them. They eat it because they think that it is jellyfish, right? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 short sentences. And in level 3, this becomes global currents deposit marine debris from all over the world on Kenya's beaches, which is a big problem for turtles. Wow, what a change. Level 2, water deposits plastic waste from all over the world on Kenya's beaches. This is a big problem for turtles, as many of them eat the plastic because they think it is jellyfish and then they die. Notice that this is exactly the words from the first level, but combined into a compound and complex sentence. That's the background grammar information you'll get when you read the 3 levels. So from there, if we go back to home, you'll see, and they've been doing this for years, so you can go back and back and back. We've got how old is the moon? So we've got science, billionaire tax, that is social policy and economics. Apple supplier in trouble, business, very good. Football league, there we go. We've got some sports as well. We've got Palestinian protests, so we've got politics as well. And you can keep going back and find articles on any subject. It's really, really exciting. So this will, as you're doing this, and as you see at the bottom, it has a little bit of vocabulary. See, it says difficult words. So you can build your vocabulary there, and you will build your understanding of grammar as you read this. And if you get an article in the reading section that happens to be about the moon landing or about space programs, you will have the language you need to talk about it. So it's also an app. You could put it on your phone. You can read an article while you're waiting for the bus. It's super easy, and hopefully you'll get a lot out of it. All of these will be in, I'll show you the next, yeah, let me show you the resource page again. Right here, it says My IELTS Practice Resources. The link is here. You will also be sent the link. It should come to you in an email that hopefully is going out to everyone on this list. But I can, you know what I'll do? I'll just go ahead and copy this link here. All right. See. All right. So this is the link to my Google Drive for this class. And my Google Drive for this class is right here. Okay, so if you follow that link, you will end up in the IELTS practice folder. And as you see, there are some files here. There's a British Council practice test complete. That's straight from the British Council. The rest of these practices are from a Barron's IELTS practice test book. All right, so you will find practice. I think there's, what is it, 6 practice tests that you can take. So work through them, and yes, I've got the answers here as well. All right. So right here it says all of IELTS in this set of files, all of IELTS intensive. All of the PowerPoints and the recordings of this class will be there. Okay. So you will find it in the All of IELTS Intensive folder. You will find a recording of this class and the PDFs of the PowerPoint and the resources. Okay, so you should be able to find everything you need there. I am going to I think I'm going to end the recording and start recording on the reading so that it's a separate class, because we've just reached the end of this. So I'm going to stop sharing. Any other questions? Any other questions? All right. Well, let me, oh, I don't know. You know what? I don't know if it will write over if I start recording again. So maybe I'll just keep the recording going. All right. But we will have a 1-minute break because I need a drink of water. So, and then we'll come back and start the class of the reading exam. All right. If there's no other questions, thank you so much for sticking with me through all of this, and I'll be Hello and welcome back. Oops, let me get my microphone in place. Hello and welcome back. Now we're going to talk about the reading exam. And see if I get my microphone tucked away. There we go. All right. That wasn't too noisy. There. Right. So off we go to look at the reading exam. Once again, any questions, please shout or type it in the chat. I appreciate those as well. So this part away. So and here we are, the reading exam. Videos later. So key techniques. The most important things in order to have enough time to complete 40 questions on the reading exam, you need to use these techniques. Read the questions. Read the questions first. You can predict many of the answers. Use guide words in the question to find the answers in the text. This is how you do it fast. This is how you do time management. You do time management by doing the technique that works. All right. You don't have to hurry. There are people who will tell you you spend 2 minutes on each question. No, it doesn't work that way. If there were some way to clinically go tick, 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 I memorize all of these things, I do this at this pace, and then it all works, it doesn't. Because it's a communication exam, it really doesn't work to try and watch the clock. The most important thing is to use the techniques. So guide words. And wait a minute, she's telling me to skip questions? Yes, I am. I am telling you to skip questions. All right. Skip those questions. If it's too hard, leave it to the end. The first thing you should do on each document, do all of the questions that are the easiest, right? If you read a question, you know exactly, you read a bunch of questions, flag the ones that you definitely know, or just flag the ones that you're going to do later. And in the end, after you've done that, saved the difficult questions for the end, you've worked through as much as you can on the difficult questions, time is ticking, save it to the end and guess. Just skip them. Why is it? This is actually one of the key skills for the reading exam, is to skip questions. This crazy woman is telling me to not answer questions on an exam when I'm trying to get the most points I can? Am I insane? No, I'm not insane. This is an exam that measures your ability on a scale from 1 to 9. Unless you are ready to get a 9 and on this exam, you're not going to be able to answer all of the questions, okay? Because they have to have questions that people at a level 3 and 4 can answer. So there's going to be some really easy questions, right? Because they have to measure each of these band levels. But that also means if you're aiming for a 7, that band 8 question may be beyond you. If you read a question that you just don't understand, that's probably a band 8 or a band 9 question, because they have to have questions to distinguish between people who are at 8 and people who are at 9. Those are not questions that were written for you to answer. All right. You do not need all of the questions. In fact, you only need 25 correct answers to get a 6.5. Yeah. Okay. So skip the difficult questions. Save them for the end. If you look at them in the end and you can make a guess, or by the time you've finished answering all the easy questions, you suddenly understand it better and can actually answer that, that question. Oh, how long have you not been able to hear me? Can anyone else hear me? Sorry, I've got a, whoops. Can someone answer? Do we have a problem? No. Okay. Ah, okay, somebody else. Okay, so whoever is on the Samsung, can you try coming out and back in again? Because I think everybody else can hear me. So yeah, everyone else can hear me? Okay.
We can hear you.
You can or no? Yes?
No, we can.
We can
Good.
hear you.
Okay,
Yeah, we
all
can
right.
clearly.
All right. So, yep. All right. So if you can't, for the person who can't hear me, try going out and coming back in again and see if you can make it work. Maybe you're not connected to the, oh, I'm talking to them. Sorry, I'll just send them a message. Okay. There we go. Okay, there we go. Right. So, yes, and so you can, so this is how you make it faster. All right. This is how you speed up. Is the fastest way to get through. Okay, good. The fastest way to get through the reading exam is to do the questions you can understand, and don't let the other ones stop you. All right. So, shocking, I know, completely unlike any other exam, but unless you're aiming for a 9, just, it's hard, but that's why I've got 6 practices in that file. All right, you've got lots of time to figure out, oh, wait a minute, yeah, that question is definitely too hard, but I don't need to do the question that's too hard. I only need to do the questions. I need at least 25 questions. 25 to 30 questions, you're fine. Those last 10 questions, they are just not, they're not part of your exam. They're part of the level 8 or level 9 exam. And that's not the one that you're taking. All right. But they have to be there because there's only one exam for the whole thing. All right. So there are lots of different question types. There's lots of people who will tell you there's 14 or there's some people will say there's 14 different types of questions. It doesn't matter. There are techniques for each of them. We're going to cover some of them today. Right. So let's keep going. Okay. Right. So here we go. Remember what I said about there we go. Simple one. Yeah. So with all of these different question types, right. So here's the magic. All right, here's the magic. If you read the question Remember I said you could predict the answers? All right. And you can tell me what the article is about. So take a moment. I want you to read these 3 multiple choice questions. Actually, yeah. Read these 3 multiple choice questions and tell me what the article is going to be about. What is this article about? What is this article about? What do you think? I need one person either in the chat or you can turn your microphone on and tell me. What is the article that we're going to be reading? The test can predict Alzheimer's. And the choices are 2 years, 2 to 3 years before the illness begins, 2 to 3 years from the start of symptoms, or a decade before. Interesting. This test is the first blood test which can cure Alzheimer's, estimate the start of the disease, or diagnose the disease. And Mapstone, okay, probably a person, believes that the test will help people understand Alzheimer's, that people want to know about their health, or that people want power. Interesting. So, what's the article going to be about? May I suggest it's going to be about Alzheimer's? And it's going to involve a blood test, right? And that there's someone who has been involved in the process, and we have to find out what he believes. All right. Okay. All right. So what do we think the article is about? And you haven't missed the article because we're reading the questions first. So can you tell? I'm trying to prove to you that if you read the questions, you don't have to scan the article to find out what it's going to be about. Read the questions. They'll tell you what the article is going to be about. So let's look at the article and see if we're right about what the article is about. Oh, it's about the first test to predict Alzheimer's. What do you know? But did we have to read even the title of the article to find that out? No, we read the questions. What do we have to do? We have to answer 40 questions in 60 minutes, or at least 30 of them, right? So let's read that first sentence. So remember, we've got other words that are very interesting here. So this test can predict. All right. We're looking for something about it can predict. All right. And this one, so we're looking for, so let's just go ahead and look for that answer. All right. So here we go. We go to the article. And what do you see? Oh, good job. one of those words that we were looking for. It's right there. Okay. And where's the words that indicate our answer? There we go. There's our answer. Okay. So we go back up here. So predicts Alzheimer's before symptoms occur. All right. So is it B, 2 or 3 years from the start of the symptoms? No. Is it a decade before? It doesn't say that. So yes, the answer is A. All right, before the illness begins, so before there are any symptoms. Okay, the second one test is the first blood test which can. Is it going to be cure? Estimate the start? Or diagnose the disease? Which one is it going to be? Let's see if we can find something. So, chemicals in the blood, disease, 2 or 3 years. We're looking for so if we look at that last sentence, see, I'm scanning for blood test. All right. And there we go. I found blood tests. All right. Can diagnose the disease, but until now, none has the sensitivity to, yes, predict its onset. So there is our answer. So let's go back to, whoops, yeah, the questions. Predict its onset. Which of these matches predict its onset? Oh, let's read that sentence carefully again. It's a kind of a hard one because several blood tests can diagnose the disease, right? But this is the first one that had these, none has the sensitivity to predict its onset. Predict its onset. Do you know, is there anything here that looks like a synonym for predict its onset? Onset means beginning. Predict means to tell or to guess at or to indicate. So which letter is actually the right one? Other tests could diagnose the disease, but this one can predict its onset. Can anyone see how estimate the start is similar to predict its onset? Okay, so that's a high-level question because the words are not the same. Yes, there's the word diagnose is in that sentence, but it's talking about other tests. If you see, several blood tests can diagnose the disease, but until now, none has the sensitivity to predict. Okay, to estimate the start. Okay, so our answer there is B. There we go. All right, let's see what Mapstone thinks. I have to say, I'm sorry, this is starting with a really hard one. Let's find the word Mapstone. Can everyone see the word Mapstone? So we've got that highlighted because that's what we're looking for. So there's our clue word. There's our guide word, Mapstone. What does he believe? In my experience, the majority of people are very interested to know whether they will get Alzheimer's. They believe that knowledge is power, particularly when it comes to your own health. We may not have any therapy yet, but there are things we can do. All right, so what do you think? Which of these, did he say anything about helping them understand the disease? And there was the word power in there, but it's not really what they were looking for. What does he really think people want to know? Right? Let's look at that again. Knowledge is power. Okay, that sounds familiar. So people want power, but yeah, but it's knowledge that people want, not power itself, particularly when it comes to your own health. So really, that's the answer there, isn't it? We've got knowledge of your own health, and that leads us to which answer? Yes, exactly. So B is our answer. So once again, I hope that this shows you that if you really look at the questions and follow the guide words, you can get the answer. And look, we never even read. Did we sit down and read from top to bottom this article? No, didn't need to. We only need to read for the answers. So let's take a look at another form, sentence completion. Now we get a big advantage with sentence completion. Oh, I am going to remind you that if you didn't get one of these, the answer is to guess. All right. So there we go. Welcome, Adunia.
Hey.
Hello. So let's look at sentence completion. This is another question type. We're going to go over 4 different question types today. I know there's a lot more, but I'll give you, you've got resources to find them. IELTS Liz, she's the person who I actually found these examples from. And her website is perfect for this. And of course, Asia's YouTube for reading techniques. Right. So the advantage you have with sentence completion is you've got the grammar for a clue. So you can figure out what kind of word you're looking for by the grammar of the sentence. Oh, there's a lot of noise in the background, Antonia. Can you mute your microphone, please? Thank you. Okay. So let's read these questions and figure out what our article is going to be about. Okay, so blank is the most recent strategy to tackle the problem of smoking. Okay, I'm just going to highlight some words that look important to me. Right. The large number of new smokers, particularly under 16, makes certain cigarette companies will always have. Ooh. Okay. New smokers. So new smokers. make certain that cigarette companies will always have a something, okay? In some countries, packaging is the only method that cigarette companies have for blank. Okay, so it's something about packaging. So we've got cigarettes, we've got new smokers, we've got packaging. And this last sentence, packets are seen as being the blank in the cigarette industry. So once again, it's about the packages. So we'll have to see what they think packages are like. So we need a noun here. We need either a noun or probably a verb there. Okay, so what is this question? What is this article going to be about in one word? Or two? What's the article going to be about? Yeah, cigarettes, smoking. Possibly something to do with the packaging. There we go. Did we need to scan the article to find that out? And look, you haven't even, look at all the things you're telling me about, and you didn't even read the article yet. You don't need to read the articles. The answers are in the questions. All right. So let's just go and have a look at the article. What do you know? We were right. It's an article about smoking. This is how you get faster. All right. So there's the word packaging. Okay. Ooh, plain packaging. And the war on smoking over the past decade. Let's see now. What are they saying about it? What's our first question again? Blank is the most recent strategy to tackle the problem of smoking. So let's look at the problem of smoking. So let's look for something that sounds like the problem of smoking. Okay, well, maybe we're not going to find that first one first. There's been and moves to restrict displays in shops. Okay, but one of the issues is the number of people continue to take up smoking, particularly young people. Ooh, let's look at that question about young people. Okay, more than, there we go. We've got under 16s. That's a good clue because that was in our question. Start in the UK each year, helping to ensure a viable, look at that. So where was that question again? And actually, I'm going to put this right here. Right. So large numbers of new smokers, particularly under 16s, make certain that cigarette companies will always have a more than 200,000 under 16 start in the year each year. Ensure a viable market remains for manufacturers. Okay, that's how we find the words. All right, so we can take that and pop it in there. All right. So we still don't know what the strategy is. Let's see if we can find anything that says something about strategy and packaging in some countries. Let's see if we could find words that look like that. And strategy. So we're looking for words that mean strategy, or in some countries, what what they do. Okay. So in countries like the UK, where there is a ban on advertising, the pack remains. Ooh, there we go. Pack remains. Now, why am I highlighting that? Packaging is the only. Okay, do you see how packaging is the only matches with the pack remains? So once again, we're looking at synonyms. All right. And what does it remain? It remains the last major vehicle for promotion. That is very long. So let's see how much of that will fit into our sentence. Well, that doesn't fit. We don't need the last major vehicle for, do we? But what word completes that sentence very well? Just the word promotion. So we found that sentence, and then we found the word that fit this sentence. Okay. Hopefully you can see that. Packets are seen as being the blank in the, okay. So what are packets? Oh, there we go. Packets have become known as and here's two things that packets have been known to become as. So unfortunately, you really have to piece this together. It's a hard one. So the packets have become known as, and what am I going to put in there? We've got two choices. Either one of these will fill the bill, okay? So you can use this or this, and both of these will be correct answers. Exactly. Okay, so let's take the first one and pop that into our sentence. Now, has anybody figured out what that first one's going to be? Yes, exactly. That was our answer at the beginning. So there we are. Plain packaging, because it stops it being the silent salesman. Well done. Oh, almost. Let's try plain packaging instead. There we go. Excellent. Excellent. Hopefully you can see how that strategy works. You're looking for keys in the sentences. You find the synonyms in the article, and there you go. The wonderful thing is you do get the added bonus of grammar to help you on this one. Now, everyone's least favorite question. Are there any questions on on this technique? Now, the cool thing is, when it comes to time management, you have the power to make this faster. Practice. All right. The more I've got 6 practice tests there, 7 including the British Council one. There's more that you can find online as well. And so practice this method and you'll find that you're faster and faster at this. The key is don't read, just skim and scan. Find those words that match the words from the question, either exactly or synonyms or by meaning. Yep, the ones that are more synonym based and more meaning based are more challenging. You can do it. I know you can. Okay. So everyone's least favorite question type is the true, false, not given. And that includes me. Even I, going over a reading exam with someone, will occasionally get stuck on a true, false, not given, because we're so used to trying to find that answer. And not given is hard to do. But why do we need not given? What is the point of reading for something that's not there? Well, I could tell you, if you're doing graduate studies, you have to read for what's not there. I did a research master's. The very first thing that I had to do, if you approach a research project, a master's or a doctorate, the first thing you have to do is your literature review, because you have to make sure that no one else has written the thing that you're just about to spend an enormous amount of time writing. The worst thing that can happen is you get 3/4 of the way into a research and you find out, oh, there's already a book on this. Ah, I do have a friend who was in the medical field, and she was halfway through her doctorate and found out somebody had already published on exactly her question, and it was devastating. But she managed to reframe it and go through anyway. She just changed the question and did a little bit more work. It took a little longer, but she got there. But this is why, yes, there is, they are going to ask you to tell them if something is not in the article, because I had 1,000, I had 1,000 articles or books, sources that in my literature review. Did I read them all? No, I'd still be reading. So I had to scan them. I had to look for exact matches. And if it wasn't an exact match, boom, great. I can get some information from this, but it's not duplicating my work. So it may seem mad and very frustrating, and they're hard for me as well. I do appreciate this, but we will be trying to find something that isn't there. Okay, so true, false, not given. So there's going to be a set of statements, and you have to tell whether they are true, whether they are false, or whether they are simply not addressed in the article. Okay, so people were drawn from all over to see the Thames Tunnel. Okay. So if we paraphrase this, what does it mean? People were drawn from all over. What does that tell you? If people were drawn from all over, what does that mean? Does that mean they came from one small area? Yes. Drawn from means came from. Exactly. Exactly. So we've got, so people came. So where did they come from? Were they all local? Was it a particular place? They all came from Denmark? What does all over mean? Did they come from nearby? They came from great distances. All right. So people, and I'm just gonna, people came from far away. All right, so that's a paraphrase of that. People came from far away and possibly nearby too. All right, they came from all over. All right, so let me just slide this up. There were 1.5 million people living in London at the time. Okay, this in a true and false question, we're going to have to check this piece of information. All right, we need to find out if that's how many, if the article says how many people were in London at the time. All right, so that's our next thing. People were able to travel by sea or land. Okay, sea or land. What do you use to travel by sea? What do you use to travel by sea? How would you know if something was a sea journey? A boat, yes. So, boat. And back in the days before cars, what would you have? How would you have traveled by land? Yes, a ship, a boat, that sort of thing. Actually, I am gonna move this down here and go tap, tap, tap. Oops. Right, big ship, yes, so boat or ship. And what about land travel? What kinds of ways would people travel by land? Yeah, bike, that's possible. Bike. So we're probably talking before cars, so horse, train, possibly. It's after trains were invented. We'll see. Okay. So, sorry, I piled right in. What is this article going to be about? Oh, buses, yeah. Horses, buses. So our article is going to be about, yeah, the Thames Tunnel and sightseeing. So statues of the tunnel could be purchased as souvenirs. So we've got souvenirs, and to know if this one's right, we'll have to. Why don't you let me do that? Stop it! Stop it! You could just leave the highlight on. So we need to look at for souvenirs and statues of the tunnel to find out if this is correct. And now let's look at what that last sentence says. The aim of building the tunnel was to make money as a tourist attraction. So what information are we looking for here? Yeah. What was the purpose of building the tunnel? Right? That's what we're looking for. What was the purpose of building the tunnel? Only with only one eye. right? So that's what we're looking for. So we're going to read an article about the Thames Tunnel. We're going to be looking for where did the people come from? How many people lived in London? We're going to figure out how they got there. We're going to find out if there were statues of the tunnel sold for souvenirs. And we're going to look for the aim, the purpose. Why did they build the tunnel? Was it always intended as a tourist attraction? Okay. So let's go find out what this article is about, since we've only read the questions. So my goodness, I mean, didn't we skim the article to find out what it was about beforehand? Did we need to look at the article to find out what it was going to be about? No. Guess what? It's about the Thames Tunnel. What a surprise. This is why it's faster to read the questions. Right. So when it opened in 1843, oh, I found people, the word people. Remember, we needed to learn about people. Where did the people come from? People came from far and wide. Okay, people came from far and wide. So I recognize this. So yes, this one is true. Excellent. So we need to find out if they say anything about how many people lived in London at the time. Let's see what we find. So we're looking for people living in London. So 50,000 people, Ooh, population of London. Ooh, okay, so what does it say? It says half the population of London. Okay, so we're going to highlight that. That's important. And if we read backwards from there, by the end of the first, there were 1 million people. Okay, if 1 million people are half the population of London, how many people lived in London at the time? Exactly. So not 1.5, because 1 million is not half of 1.5. So that one is indeed false. And this is how you can tell. If it's true, it's almost identical to what's in question. If it's false, it's almost exactly the same language. It's exactly not correct. It's very obviously not correct. Okay, let's go look for those souvenirs. Where does it say anything about souvenirs? I see the word souvenirs. Okay, what did people do with them? There we go. We've got the word souvenirs. What did people do with the souvenirs? People came long distances and bought souvenirs. Does it say anything about statues of the tunnel? Do you see anything about statues? Is there anything about statues? No, there isn't. And this is the part that always catches me, because I always want to answer a question positively or negatively. Check once, check twice. If you don't see it on the second scan, then it's not there. Okay, that's how I determine if a question is, where are we? Yeah, there we are. This is how I determine if a question is not given. Okay, if I scan once and I don't see it, I get one more chance to find the information. And if I still don't see it, it's not given. All right. Don't fall into my mistake. It's the one that I do. And like I said, when I've gone over reading exams with people one-to-one, this happens all the time, I end up getting stuck looking for the not given. And it's really easy to do. So I now discipline myself. I scan once for true. Is there anything that says this is a true statement? No. Scan once. Is there anything that says this is a false statement? No. Then it's not given. 2 scans, not given. All right. It will keep you from wasting time on those. They're a real trap. Okay, so let's see. Oh, I skipped the sea and land. I'm so sorry. I missed one. People were able to travel by sea or land in those days. Question number 3. Yes. What do we think? How do we? So, oh, I see. I see sail. See, people came long distances in the age of sail. And horse-drawn coaches. Yes, exactly. So question 3, going back up to question 3. Sorry about skipping that one. So were people able to travel by sea or land? Yes, we got another true one. Excellent. Right, the last one, the last serious one, the aim. What was the purpose of building the tunnel? We need to find out what was the purpose of building. Yes, still not spelling correctly. I can't spell, but I teach English. Everything is possible in this world. Right. What do you see in the last sentence? Yes. Turn a profit. There we go. And what else? Also to move. Yeah. We'll just say move cargo and turn a profit. We'll highlight the whole thing. All right. Not entertainment. So was it built as a tourist attraction to entertain people? No. So that is a false statement. Exactly. Brilliant. And that is how you navigate. True, false, and not given. All right. So we're going to run a little of it. Nope, that's, oh yeah. The next one is matching headings. Once again, you're going to summarize. I'm running low on time. Okay. But maybe I might go over just a little. So in matching headings, this is summary information. Okay. It's summary information. So we need to find out an overall about it. So if we look at each of these potential headings, we're going to find out, well, this time, of course, we can't find out exactly what the article is about, but we can find out what the article may be about. Now, if it is about temperatures on Earth, what's that going to be? It's going to be talking about data, won't it? It'll be talking about things that are hot, things that are cold. If it's what is a greenhouse, what's that going to be? It'll be a description of a greenhouse. Now, what about this one? How is Earth a greenhouse? How is Earth a greenhouse? That, once again, so temperatures should be a straight information. What is a greenhouse? It should be a description of what creates, what constitutes a greenhouse. How is Earth a greenhouse? Well, that is asking you to make a comparison. Okay, so if we've got a comparison in this paragraph, it's probably going to be this answer. Plants that grow in a greenhouse versus Earth's atmosphere. Okay, once again, this is a comparison, but it's a comparison between plants in two different environments. Okay, so in a greenhouse versus outside of a greenhouse. And then why do people have greenhouses? Well, that would be obviously about reasons to build a greenhouse, reasons to grow things within a greenhouse. So if you can paraphrase, if you can think about, if it's about this, what will the information look like? All right, so we've got two possible comparisons. This one, how is Earth a greenhouse? Or, so that would be a focus on the conditions on Earth itself, and how this one would be a focus, a comparison between a greenhouse and Earth's atmosphere with a focus on plants. Okay, so that's how you sort of do a summary of these headings so that you know what to look for. So what is this one about? What is this paragraph about? Is it a comparison? One trick you can use is to read the first, the first sentence and the last sentence. Oftentimes, that will give you your answer when you're trying to figure out what a paragraph is about. So, which of those headings do you think is the right one? So here we go. We're leaving out a lot of information, but if we read those and we come back, what was that paragraph about? Which one? Anybody with me? Which one do you think it is? Can you see how this is a description of what a greenhouse is? Everything about it. A greenhouse stays warm inside. The heat is trapped by glass. This is all about what a greenhouse actually is. All right. What is a greenhouse? It has glass walls and a glass roof. A greenhouse stays warm inside. Sunlight shines in and warms the plants, but the heat is trapped. Okay. So can you see that? I hope. Right. Well, I'm gonna give you, yeah, oops, copy link. Yeah. I'm gonna give you IELTS Liz. You can practice a lot more of these reading in her reading lessons. You can also practice, yeah, this is her reading advice. Oops. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Copy the link. And this is, I need to remember to send it. And this is Asia's YouTube channel on reading. And of course, I will also give you the news and levels one. If you copy these links now, you'll have them immediately. And I will be uploading all of these resources to the drive that I gave you the link for this evening. So you'll see it by tomorrow morning. All right. Any questions now? Any final questions?